Have you ever wondered what Jesus looked like? In his mysterious letter, Governor Pontius Pilate not only mentions miracles and significant events, but also provides a detailed description of Jesus' appearance, from his skin tone to his compassionate eyes. This is one of the rare instances where we have an authentic depiction of his appearance from ancient times. Do you want to discover more of these startling details? Don't forget to follow the channel so you don't miss out on any of these fascinating historical mysteries. The portrait of Jesus that Pilate wrote for Emperor Tiberius offers a different perspective, making one wonder if the image we know of him is entirely accurate. In his letter to Tiberius, Pilate not only recounts specific details about Jesus' appearance, but also describes miracles, the trial, and even the resurrection, things that the Gospels seem to have never mentioned. But what exactly is the content of this letter? What drove Pilate, a Roman governor, to report these extraordinary events about a man he saw as a model not only of spirituality, but also of loyalty? Pilate begins the letter with a formal greeting to the emperor. "Greetings, Emperor. The recent events in my province are so astonishing that I feel compelled to report them in detail. It seems as if all the gods have turned their backs on us. My life since assuming authority in Judea has been filled with nothing but anxiety and sorrow." He described that from the moment he set foot in Jerusalem, he encountered resistance from the religious leaders and Jewish high priests. Pilate observed that among all the lands conquered by Rome, Jerusalem was the hardest to control. The people here were always ready to revolt, placing heavy pressure on his limited guard. Amid this tense environment, a remarkable figure caught Pilate's attention. A young man from Galilee, Jesus of Nazareth. When he first heard about Jesus, Pilate wondered if this man might be a rebel against Rome. However, after observing him, he realized that Jesus had no intention of inciting rebellion, but rather spread a message of compassion. On one occasion, seeing Jesus teach in the crowd, Pilate chose to keep his distance but instructed his secretary to mingle with the people and record Jesus' teachings. According to the secretary, Laius, Jesus answered the crowd's questions with rare wisdom. When asked about paying taxes, Jesus replied, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's." Bible, Matthew 22:21. Pilate continued, recounting that although Jesus was condemned by the high priests, he chose to be lenient and allowed Jesus his freedom. He saw that Jesus did not incite the people, but rather criticized the hypocrisy of the Jewish leaders. Jesus once said to them, "You are like whitewashed tombs which look beautiful on the outside but on the inside are full of dead men's bones." Bible, Matthew 23:27. His blunt words incensed the high priests, who frequently complained to Pilate about his arrogance. In his encounter with Jesus, Pilate couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by his presence. He recounted that, standing on the balcony, he felt glued to the floor as Jesus approached with absolute calm. "I stood there trembling like a sinner, while he approached gently, as if to say, 'I am here,' without uttering a word," Pilate described. The image of Jesus, a figure capable of leaving a deep impression on the mind of such an experienced Roman official, was truly a monumental presence that few in that era could compare to. A sense of awe and hesitation enveloped Pilate as he faced Jesus, the man whom he had allowed to preach freely for the past 3 years. "Jesus," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "over these years, I have granted you freedom of speech, and I have no regrets about it. Your words are simple yet profound, a simplicity greater than that of our greatest philosophers." With concern, Pilate warned Jesus about the dangers from powerful enemies he had unintentionally made. He recalled, Socrates met a similar fate for his wisdom, and his enemies were no less ruthless. Jesus calmly replied, as if fully understanding his destiny, "You cannot alter the Creator's law. When the time comes, the blood of the righteous will be shed, but your blood will not be spilled." Jesus' words left Pilate astonished. He sensed a depth in Jesus' thoughts unmatched by any philosopher. Pilate, in an effort to protect him, pledged to make his post a refuge for Jesus, but Jesus gently replied, "The true refuge is in heaven." In a tense conversation with Herod, a powerful local ruler, Pilate was asked for his thoughts on Jesus. He remarked that Jesus was a philosopher whose ideas transcend politics, one who chose the path of peace and poses no threat to Rome. Pilate's response displeased Herod, yet there was nothing more he could do. As Passover approached, and with many Jews gathering from all over, the atmosphere in the city grew increasingly tense. According to Pilate, the Jewish leaders had used temple funds to incite the crowd against Jesus. Despite his desire to protect Jesus, Pilate found himself in a dilemma, needing to maintain order amidst a crowd on the verge of rebellion. They continuously shouted, "Crucify him!" creating pressure on the Roman authorities and placing Pilate in a difficult position. At that time, Pilate attempted to transfer the case to Herod since Jesus was from Galilee. However, Herod, in an effort to avoid responsibility, sent Jesus back to Pilate, forcing him to make a decision. Pilate's palace was surrounded by a sea of rebellious people, more crowded and chaotic than ever before. The crowd had come down from nearby regions, demanding the execution of Jesus, making the situation increasingly chaotic and dangerous. At that moment, a Galilean woman claiming to be a prophetess approached Pilate, pleading with him not to harm Jesus. "Do not touch this man, for he is holy." She recounted her dream in which she saw him walking on water, speaking to the storm and to the fish in the lake, and they all obeyed him. She warned that if Pilate did not heed her words, he would face the curse of the Senate and the wrath of Caesar. The woman's haunting prophecy, along with the tension and pressure from powerful forces, made Pilate fearful for his own fate and that of the Roman Empire in the face of the rise of a figure he could not entirely control. As the crowd brought Jesus back to the outpost, the marble steps trembled under their weight and frenzy. I, protected by guards, entered the court and firmly asked, "What do you want?" Their answer was a unified roar, "The death of Jesus." I tried to defend him, asking about the charges against him, and received the reply that he had blasphemed and claimed to be the Son of God. I replied to the crowd that Roman law does not judge a person based on unfounded accusations, but the cries of "Crucify him" continued to echo, as if the palace itself felt the force of this fury. Amid the chaotic crowd, only one person remained calm: Jesus. When all attempts at reconciliation failed, I proposed the release of a prisoner in accordance with the festival tradition and chose Jesus. However, the crowd remained steadfast, demanding the harshest punishment for him. I attempted to invoke Jewish law, reminding them of the rule to wait a full day before sentencing to death and the requirement for approval from the Sanhedrin. I also explained that traditional protocols required someone to publicly announce the charges against the accused to ensure fairness, but all these arguments were in vain. In the end, I was forced to order Jesus to be flogged, hoping this punishment would quell the crowd's fury, but instead it only fueled their rage. I washed my hands before the crowd, declaring myself innocent, but no words could stop this riot. It was as if Jesus' fate had already been sealed. That day I witnessed an unprecedented scene, a whirlwind of madness from the gates of the outpost to Mount Zion, with shouts of anger surpassing even the revolts in Pannonia or in the Roman Forum. As the sun began to be obscured, the sky turned dark, reminiscent of the Ides of March when Julius Caesar was assassinated. I stood silently in a corner of the basilica, watching the figure of Jesus being led to his death. A sense of loneliness weighed on me as I watched Jerusalem empty, its people streaming out through the gates, leaving the city eerily quiet as if enchanted. In that moment, I felt that this was not just a human event, but a tragedy of the gods. The silence and heaviness of the atmosphere were shattered by a sound from Golgotha, a resonance of pain unlike anything ever heard. Thick black clouds gathered over the temple and spread across the city, like a mourning shroud covering everything. It was said that someone cried out, "Either the Creator is suffering or the universe is collapsing." As these strange phenomena continued, a strong earthquake occurred in Egypt, terrifying many Jews and Romans, while the superstitious saw it as a sign of the world's end. That evening, I left the outpost and headed toward the gate of Golgotha, witnessing a somber crowd departing after the tragic spectacle. My entourage moved silently, with the Roman eagle covered, symbolizing the sorrow in their hearts. The soldiers murmured about miracles, and some paused, looking toward Mount Calvary as if expecting a miracle. I returned to the outpost heavy-hearted, ascending the steps still marked with the blood of Jesus. As I turned back, I saw an elderly man praying with tears in his eyes, surrounded by Roman soldiers moved by the scene. He knelt at my feet and, with a choked voice, asked permission to bury Jesus. "I am Joseph of Arimathea," he said, "and I wish to request permission to bury Jesus of Nazareth." I agreed, allowing him and sending some soldiers along to guard the body. A few days after the burial, I heard that the tomb where Jesus was laid was empty, and his disciples publicly declared that he had risen, just as he had prophesied. This event caused a massive shockwave, even more intense than the news of his death. To uncover the truth, I conducted a careful investigation, but no one could provide a precise explanation of what had happened. Although Joseph had placed Jesus' body in his own tomb, whether any external interference led to the body's disappearance remains unverifiable. Clearly, this event will continue to disturb people and remains a mystery I can only witness but cannot fully understand. Earlier, after Jesus' burial, a priest approached me, worried that his disciples might steal the body to create the impression that he had risen. To prevent this, I instructed him to meet with Captain Marcus and asked Marcus to deploy additional Jewish soldiers to guard the tomb, ensuring that responsibility would lie with them. However, when I received the news of the empty tomb, my unease grew. Marcus reported that he had assigned Lieutenant Ben Isham and 100 soldiers to guard the tomb, but on the early morning of the incident, the entire team encountered terrifying and mysterious phenomena. This strange event seemed beyond control, intensifying the astonishment and mystery surrounding the resurrection that the disciples deeply believed in. When I summoned Isham, he recounted what he had witnessed. Around the fourth watch, a faint light appeared over the tomb. At first, he thought it was women coming to anoint Jesus' body, but strangely, none of them seemed to pass by the guards. While he was still wondering about the event, the entire area suddenly illuminated, and he saw a strange sight. A multitude of figures resembling the dead, yet youthful and full of life. A clear, heavenly sound filled the air, making him feel as if the entire sky was praising God. The ground trembled beneath him, causing him to collapse and lose consciousness. When he regained consciousness, Isham lay face down on the ground. When I asked if the light could have been the morning sunlight, he insisted that it was still too early for sunrise. I further inquired if his dizziness might have been due to staying awake too long, but he denied this, explaining that he had remained alert all night as per the rule forbidding sleep on duty. He even allowed some soldiers to sleep to ensure that there was always someone on guard. When I asked about the duration of the event, he estimated that the light lasted for nearly an hour until daylight was fully clear. Later, the priests questioned Isham and offered him money to claim that the disciples had stolen the body. They wanted him to say that the guards had fallen asleep and that the earthquake caused the body's disappearance. But Isham refused because he had not witnessed that, nor did he see any sign of the disciples at the scene. He noted that some of the priests seemed to believe that Jesus was no ordinary man. From their perspective, he could be an incarnation of the divine, who has appeared at various times, such as during the days of Abraham and Lot. What Isham said made me think deeply. If the rumors about Jesus are true, then clearly he possesses a transcendent power beyond the laws of nature. Acts like turning water into wine, healing the sick, raising the dead, and even making a fish appear with a coin in its mouth were all confirmed by the Jews. Remarkably, he committed no ordinary crimes, nor did he harm anyone directly. I recall someone saying at the cross, "Truly, this was the Son of God." That statement echoes in my mind when I think of a man whose distinctiveness was undeniable to both foes and followers alike. Records describing Jesus' appearance depict him as a man of average height, with a calm demeanor and a powerful presence. His face carried a gentle and serene expression, even in the most tense circumstances. His hair was long, slightly wavy, and a light brown color, almost golden, making him stand out in a crowd. Jesus' eyes were his most captivating feature, shifting from light brown to green depending on the angle, conveying a profound understanding of life. His skin was fair and smooth, and his face was well-proportioned, exuding majesty without being intimidating. He wore simple yet elegant clothing, often a long robe and tunic, reflecting humility and detachment from material possessions. His appearance was not flashy, but conveyed a sense of peace and approachability. These records about him make me even more convinced that if he truly is the Son of God, then he embodies the finest virtues humanity could hope to find. Your Majesty, I have presented all the events as truthfully as possible for your objective judgment of my decision. I concluded the letter with loyalty. With all due respect, I remain your devoted servant. And that is the entire mysterious and moving story of the miraculous events surrounding the life and death of Jesus Christ. If this story resonates with something within your soul, please like the channel, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss upcoming videos. Click on the video appearing on your screen to discover more mysteries like this one. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Do these records about Jesus make you reflect more on him? We look forward to hearing your views, and above all, thank God for the wonderful things he has bestowed upon this world.